Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. It is just right before 10 o'clock out here in Colorado. And we're really excited to have you joining us. This is going to be the first webinar of our Fall into Cash campaign. Basically, what Fall into Cash is, every September, Brighter Vision works with experts in the industry, consultants, different companies to provide courses, content, giveaways, all that kind of good stuff. I will put a link to our Fall into Cash campaign in the general chat here. It's a great time to enter a ton of giveaways, whether you're a Brighter Vision customer, whether you've never heard about us before. So cool. So just to make sure everyone can see okay, Google Chrome, if you have it, is going to be the best browser for the webinar. It's typically has the best connectivity, and you're going to have the least amount of issues from our experience. So if you're not on Google Chrome, we would recommend that you get on it. Safari is pretty good too, but Google Chrome is definitely the best one, whether you're on a Mac or a PC. So yeah, so super happy to have everyone with us today. We have the general chat feature there. Please feel free to put any questions in that. We love when these webinars are interactive. I typically like to just respond to questions as they come in. And you can't hear anything. Is everyone else being able to hear okay? Can everybody maybe tell me where you're from? Tell me where you're tuning in from. Ah, great. Catherine from Colorado. Great to have you in. We got a couple New Jerseys there. San Diego, Portland, all over the place. Texas. Love to see it, and really happy to have you all with us. So awesome. Oh, we got somebody from Toronto as well.
Hey, hi, Canada.
Austin, I was just there in Austin last week. That's great. So cool. So to get going, hopefully you get those audio issues figured out. It could be, maybe just reconnecting. To get started here, if you're a Brighter Vision customer, really happy to have you with us again. If you are new to Brighter Vision and just hearing about us, we're very excited to have you with us as well. What we do here at Brighter Vision, we are the marketing solution for therapists. And our whole goal is to make it as simple as possible for you. So we offer a web design service that has us pair you up with a professional development team, allows us to build you a beautiful website that looks like you spent thousands of dollars for just $59 a month. As a part of our Fall into Cash campaign here this September, we are giving a discount of $100 off to anyone who's interested in building a site with us. We also offer social media management through our software, Social Genie. What Social Genie does is allow you to schedule out a year's worth of social media posts in just about 10 to 15 minutes of your time. It's super cool. We're super excited to have it released. Every person who's interested will be offered a 14-day free trial of that. So let me know, if you have questions. With that, super excited today to be joined by Jeff Gunther. Jeff works with Therapy Den, which is one of our biggest partners here. Jeff is a therapist in Portland, Oregon. He's been in private practice since 2005 and is the creator and owner of the Portland Therapy Center and Therapy Den, the highly ranked therapist directory. He also hosts a podcast called Say More About That, about trending mental health topics. And Jeff is with Therapy Den. Their whole goal is to really establish a progressive therapist directory, something that's able to fight racism, homophobia, transphobia, and other forms of discrimination. It's a super cool service. We offer 6 months free to all Brighter Vision customers. And then they also offer a free trial on their site to anyone who's not a customer as well. But it's a super cool directory, and we're really happy to have been partnered with them. So Jeff, so great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. You did a really good job introducing Therapy Den. So thank you.
Awesome. So cool. And one of the things that Jeff really has a ton of expertise in, outside his work with Therapy Den, outside his work with his, own practice, is blogging. I
Hmm.
follow, we're partners with Therapy Den, and we, follow their blog. They have a ton of great content on there, and especially great, topics. I know, Jeff, every week when you publish your blog, I'm always clicking on it because of the different titles that I see. I'm just like, this is so interesting. I need to just take 15 minutes to read this. So
Hmm.
what we're going to be talking all about today is blogging, basically a blogging 101 course. So, maybe if, you wouldn't mind kind of, taking the stage first here, Jeff, could you tell us and maybe tell the audience, why it's important to have a blog? And, if they've been thinking about, maybe having a blog, why should they finally take the leap to have a web or have a blog on their website for their practice?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think a lot of therapists are wondering about this, especially because as we kind of continue into our modern age and things go even more online, get more digital, they're wondering like how they can kind of like keep up with the pace. And one of the reasons you might want to have a blog on your therapy practice website is so that when clients visit your website, they can really get to know you. Like get to know you more than just like your about page or your credentials or your nice picture or some of the specialties that you work with. But with the blog, they can really kind of like dive in and create like a digital rapport with you. And a lot of times clients need to feel that sort of like online digital rapport before they actually reach out to you. And you can do that by blogging and maybe being a little bit more personal or getting like really specific about your niche or the type of treatments you use or your demographic or something. So it really like pulls people in and connects you. I feel like that's like the number one reason that therapists should have blogs.
Yeah, and that's great. And something we've said here and something that I've said on previous webinars and in different like content that we've put out is, people
Hmm.
do business with those they know, like, and trust. And
Hmm.
it's a huge thing. And as you said, being able to connect with people and get them to know you,
Hmm.
is going to be really important to your overall brand and, being able to, attract the kind of people that you want to see and that you want to work with.
Yeah, exactly. You get to kind of like use the blog to show your expertise, so you can get really focused on a specific issue or specific population. And if you show your expertise, or not even, I mean, show your expertise, but also show how passionate you are about treating a specific issue or about how much you care about your clients or the town that you live in or something like that, then that like again pulls people in and they're like, oh, you seem like an authority, you seem like you know a lot about this subject. So again, you're sort of like attracting your ideal audience and connecting with folks, and it kind of like shows that you're a real person. You're not just sort of like giving these like kind of boring bland statements that you kind of have to give on your like about page or contact page or whatever. You can like really show your personality, and if they see that you're authentic and that maybe you have like certain values or beliefs and it matches your clients' values or beliefs, then it's another way to connect. um, and I don't know if you have this data, Sam, but there's it gets floated around every now and then that usually clients like visit your website or your therapy done or your online profile 8 to 11 times before actually reaching out to the therapist. So when people are looking for a therapist, they're not just like depression therapist in Colorado. Okay, I'm calling you right now. Usually it's like they wait a whole year before they even like reach out to somebody, whether they like, research their depression, look at all the articles, then look at therapists, gather a whole bunch of therapists that could be a good fit, find their websites, go back to their websites again and again and again and again. And if you have content on your blog page, then that's what they're reading. They want like as much content as they can so they can really feel connected, and then they're going to reach out, and the blog is just like the perfect place to put all that content.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that study actually a couple of times
Mm.
before. I feel like
Hmm.
it makes the rounds every couple of
Hmm.
months.
Sure.
And I totally agree with it. People are, people who are looking for therapy, counseling, it's going to take them, oftentimes a little while. They're not just going to go to the first person they see because we're all so informed today and we have a wealth of knowledge at our fingertips.
Hmm.
So being able to be there for them and sort of nurture that relationship, even though you haven't even spoken on the phone yet, is huge.
Hmm.
And I think can really make, can really lead to some long-term success. So, with that too, another piece about blogging that you may hear is the benefits for search engine optimization. So, I do think, with a blog, you should not be writing, for the search engines. Don't try and load your blog up with all of these phrases that might not apply in the hopes that it's going to, perform that much better. If you just write to your ideal client, if you speak to what you specialize in, if you show people you care, that kind of stuff is naturally going to come through and naturally help you, in things like the search engines. Now, that being said, one of the pieces that Google takes into its consideration of its search algorithm is making sure that the website's being updated. Because in a site that's being updated, that's active, is important to them, and they know that, hey, this person's providing some great resources, they're in business, and this isn't just a site kind of floating out in space that someone forgot about.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
write for people first, but it is helpful for search engines.
Yeah, it's hard not to. I mean, you're writing for people, but it's hard not to kind of be like, you're also thinking about like you're also writing for Google and their search
Mhm.
engine spiders that they're sending out there. And so like you're saying, it's tempting to kind of like stuff a bunch of keywords as in like search terms that people are typing into Google. So if you're a therapist that treats PTSD, then you might think that I should like type that into my blog over and over and over again so that Google knows that I should rank for those terms. But Google's smart enough to know that you're like doing keyword stuffing, and you could be actually like penalized if they're just like, oh, we know you're writing for us and you're not actually writing for your ideal client. So don't fall into that trap. And like you're saying, yeah, Google loves a fresh website that's providing like more content and more content. Because if your website is just out there and it becomes stale and it's not getting updated, then it just sort of slowly moves down the Google rankings, and well, that's just bad for business. So every now and then, just sort of as much as you can. Sam, do you recommend like a certain amount of times that they should blog per week or month or year? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So, I do have some thoughts. The ultimate thing is, blog as much as you have the bandwidth for.
Mm-hmm.
Decide what you can commit to. Ultimately, blogging is an investment in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So decide what you can commit to, and go ahead and do it. If that's, I would suggest, as a starting point, if you're kind of just getting up and going, probably once a month for a blog is a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you decide you have the time to do twice a month. That's great. If you have time to do a blog every week, that's great
You're
too.
a
But
rock star.
the most important thing is to just be consistent with it. Be able to, have, good posts that you can come up with, as opposed to things that are going to be really rushed. I think it's better, if you can blog once a month and it's a high quality blog, that's going to be better than, blogging every week if it's something that's super rushed. Would you agree with that, Jeff?
Yep, I totally agree with that. For Therapy Den, I blog once a week, but I'm like really aggressive with my blog. It's sort of like, uh, it's called like what I do, and I guess kind of what therapists might be doing if they're blogging. It's called like content marketing, right? Like you create like a really, so you try to create like high quality content in your blog. You attract website visitors. They read your blog. They see that you're interesting or you're an authority or you're giving something away, and then they become even more interested in your services. So if I'm giving like free advice and people are like resonating with it, then they're like, oh, I wonder what it would be if I actually paid for this advice and scheduled a session with this person. Um, so, so yeah, I like to blog once a week, but I want therapists to try to at least blog once a month.
That's
Yeah.
great. So, and cool. So before we move on to our next kind of segment, and that's going to be, how can you actually start blogging? But
Mhm.
before we move in, did anyone have any questions? Are there any questions, that you have, based off of what we've talked about already? If you do, feel free, just go ahead and put that in the chat right away here. And we're going to be able to, answer things as we go. So, um, Cool. So, yeah. So I guess we'll start off then. How can you start a blog? Where is the best place to start? So, as far as the technical aspects goes, you're going to need something really important. That's going to be a website.
Mhm,
Um, the website is going to be sort of your vehicle for being able to blog.
mhm,
Not all sites blogs are created alike. I would say that one of the easiest ways to start a blog is going to be through a WordPress site, which basically has that feature packaged up and ready to go for you
mhm,
already,
mhm.
from the second that site is live. Wix and Weebly and Squarespace do have a blogging function as well. But you're going to want to make sure that you have that blog set up. And if you don't have that, I would contact whoever your service provider is to be able to set that up. Also, as a technical aspect, you're going to want to make sure that the blog is fully integrated on the site. Meaning, you don't want to have, for example, if I have my own therapy business, if it's samstherapy.com, I don't want to have my blog on a different site that's samsblog.com. To be able to get those benefits from blogging, specifically with the search engine stuff, you're going to want that all to be on that same site. And that's something that I do see from time to time is people having a blog on a third party, which we don't recommend. So
No, yeah, and let me just sort of like say that again. Like, you should never have a blog on a different site than your website. Because one of the things that you're wanting to get is, if you do blog and people are finding it interesting, is that some people might like link to your blog and be like, "Oh, I just read this blog," or they might like use some like tweet about it or put it on Facebook and link to your blog. And the more links that you have connected to your blog that's connected to your website, then the more you're going to raise up in the Google online searches. So if you're blogging on some other platform or website, then it's not going to move you up the search rankings.
great. Great. So, and looks like we did have a couple of questions come in here. Maybe you could start with this one, Jeff. So Anya asks, when referencing sources in your blog, do you credit the source immediately after writing their material or at the end, like in the footnotes?
Yeah, we don't have to follow APA style or anything like that. It's kind of like the Wild West. You should definitely like link to your sources, because you want to like show that like you have a good reputation and that you're an honest, ethical person. But you can, a lot of times when people are writing blogs and they're writing about a source, then they link to that source like right inside the paragraph. They just sort of like highlight what they're talking about and link out. Or you can take it, you can put the links all in a list at the bottom of your blog post in the footnotes area. Whatever you want to do, totally fine, but just make sure you're linked out.
Yeah, and that's typically what we do here at Brighter Vision. If we are typically what we'll do is if we're linking to like a broader study in like a medical journal or something like that, or somebody's like PhD dissertation, we'll put that down in the footnotes. But if we're
Hmm.
just linking to somebody's website or somebody else's blog, we will typically just credit them by turning the information into a hyperlink to
Hmm.
link out, because
Right,
and people love when you do that because it builds backlinks,
right.
which helps your authority in Google, and it helps promote both sides. So, for example, if Jeff would include a segment from one of our blogs on
Hmm.
Therapy Den's site, we love that because he links back to it. We both get the benefits from it. He gets the benefit of having that information there. We get the benefit of having the backlink. So it is helpful too to explore guest blogging for that reason, which is another topic to get into. And if anybody's interested in that, we can go over that in a bit.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I see somebody's
um,
asking about being self-conscious about writing
mhm,
and how to learn to be a
yeah.
better writer or find an editor. How do they start doing that? I um, I think you should follow my path and advice. I married a copy editor, so I write all my blogs, and my wife is a fantastic copy editor, and that solved a lot of my problems. But if you can't find a nice copy editor to be in a relationship with, I like to kind of start sometimes, instead of like sitting down at the computer and typing it out, I like to just sort of like do it into my phone, like recording and record my voice being like, this is what I'm going to talk about. and just sort of like get it out, because sometimes it's hard for me to write it out and I just like need to get it out of my head, you know? And then once I have that, I can kind of like maybe do like a voice to dictation thing. So it kind of like types something on my phone or on my computer, and then I can start to play with it and turn it into like an actual blog post. But there is this sort of like self-conscious, I'm going to be judged, I'm not a good writer sort of thing. And the thing about that is that like as we're like continuing to move into the digital age, we're all about sort of like authenticity, which also is sort of like gritty and isn't perfect. You know, like lots of YouTube channels are not like professionally produced and look like TV. It's just like people talking into their camera on their computer or onto their phone or something. And there's something really authentic and connecting about that. So I don't want you to like judge yourself too much when you start to sit down and type.
Yeah, and I actually love that. And I never thought about that before, Jeff. That tip of, kind of speaking into a microphone and then,
Hmm.
actually putting pen to paper, a little bit later. I think that's a great idea. And I also love what you had to say about, authenticity. That is important. People like, you being your real self. They want to know the real you. And I really, really like that. And I really resonate with that.
Hmm.
To get over that, writer's block of being,
Hmm.
self-conscious. Um, so cool. And then we have another question from Layla from the Bay Area. Is there an ideal length for blogs? Also, any thoughts about video blogging? Rosalie had another question about vlogs and if they're as beneficial as blogs. So maybe we can just wrap those two into one. Would you like to start on that, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I like to shoot for when I'm writing a blog, I'd like to shoot for like at least 1,000 words, maybe up to 1,500 words. That's like, I feel like it's a good length. Not too short, not too long, and you can like include some like good quality content there. But it's also okay if you can't write 1,000 words and you just want to write 500 or 600 words. Okay, just get it out there. Like that's fine. Do what you can and don't judge yourself too much. Um, and then, well, there's also the option of just sort of like writing like a really long blog. And sometimes Google really likes it if you're just like, I'm gonna do a real deep dive, 2,500, 3,000 words, like I'm going for it, where you just like take a subject and you totally dissect it. So if you're treating somebody with like codependency issues, you might start with like, this is what codependency is about. This is how the symptoms and signs. This is the type of treatment. This is how we like develop it in childhood. It's your parents' fault. Here's why, or whatever. Like this is like what society is telling you. Just like kind of go through this like really long list of questions and answer those questions that you actually, or statements that you're actually like telling your clients, talking to your clients about in session. You can just sort of like write a blog and it becomes really long, and that can be really good quality content.
That's great. So yeah, and ideal length, I typically will say the same thing.
Hmm.
About 1,000 to 1,500 words is a good sort of mark. But like Jeff said, it's okay to do 500. It's okay to take a super deep dive, and both have their different purposes. So, as for video blogging, so the thing about video blogging, it makes it a little bit trickier, just because Google doesn't rank like video blogs the same way they will, the actual content. From what I last heard, there is talks about them being able to, parse videos in the future and adding that to search algorithms. I'm not sure if, how far along that is yet. I know it's kind of just a rumor floating around. But video blogs are, on the other hand, a great way for you to connect with your customers. If you can find, my suggestion would be to, find some sort of format that your sort of ideal customer is going to, your ideal client is going to relate with. And it could be a really great way to promote yourself. With video blogging, if you start, I would definitely encourage that consistency. We do find a lot of benefits specifically to people having like an introductory video on their homepage. Video
Hmm.
blogging is, kind of, I don't have enough firsthand examples of it, really being super effective to give you concrete information. But it can be if you find a really successful.
Yeah, and if you want to sort of like develop your personal brand and really kind of let people into your life, then okay, going ahead and like video blogging is a good idea. If you do like, uh, the second most searched for, or the second most used search engine is YouTube. So if you like put all of your videos on YouTube, then you can start to develop some followers there. Um, but if you do put a video on your blog, on your website, I would suggest writing like at least a short description so that Google can be like, oh, okay, this is what this video is about because here's some like text I can actually read. Like you said, like they're not able to really like understand what's in the video. So writing a description is always a good idea.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jeff. And I do think too, um, it is important if you're going to do a video blog, make sure it's uploaded to YouTube,
Hmm.
and then embedded on your website as opposed
Right.
to directly just embedding a raw video file on your site. Just
Hmm.
because, like you said, Google, or sorry, YouTube, number two search engine, um, people are gonna, you get a lot more exposure that way. So.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so Sarah has a question about if people sharing your blog, uh, if is it people sharing your blog that increases links to your blog? So um, what we were talking about a little bit before, to kind of separate these out, is a difference between like sharing the blog on social media versus having somebody link back to your blog. Having somebody link back to your blog, especially a big, especially a credible source or another therapist, or even something like Psychology Today. Having them link to any of your information is going to be really helpful at building those backlinks and connections for Google. Official. What we were specifically talking about was having that link directly. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
And like you're
so
saying,
cool. And
if you, sorry, did I, okay,
oh yeah, go ahead.
like you were saying, if you can get like an authority link, so a link from a website that's like at least respected in your community, that might be a link from your local paper or weekly paper, a link from like a local university, a link from other therapists or healthcare providers that are in your community. Those are always really good links to get. Links from social media to your blog is good. They're just not as strong and powerful in Google's eyes. If you're wanting to like get more links and move up the search ranks. So the more links you get, Google looks at them as like votes, and the more votes you get, the higher you rank in online searches.
Great
Yeah.
stuff. So, cool. And yeah, thank you all for your great questions. If there are more questions you have, definitely feel free to put them right on in there. We will answer them. Anna has a question. What are some good strategies to determine best content for your blog? So I'll let Jeff start, and then I'll kind of, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll add some stuff at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a really good question. So what do you actually write about? Because you want to create content that's like quality content, which is, I don't know, Google has their own definition of what quality content is, but it's also kind of intuitive. Like write content that your ideal client might find really interesting. So just kind of like keep that in mind. So you might want to write content about like the specific issue that you treat. I treat people that are feeling anxious in relationships. So I'm going to write blogs and articles about why you might feel anxious in your relationship, how to not feel anxious in your relationship, 3 things that you should do right now if you're feeling anxious in your relationship, how to communicate with your partner so that you feel less anxious in your relationship, why people in anxious relationships are always attracting avoidance and it makes you crazy, whatever. So I'm just kind of like deep dive into like my specific ideal client. Or I might just talk about like the demographic that I want to treat. So I treat people that are in their 20s and 30s, or like new relationships. So like things that you should know about your new relationship, or things that happen the first year of marriage, where I'm just like really demographically oriented into my population. Or I'm going to talk about my treatment styles. So I'm like a narrative therapist and cognitive therapist, and I do some psychodynamic work. And that's all very jargony. You, the therapist, know what I'm talking about, but the clients have no idea what psychodynamic means. So I'm gonna be like, in layman's terms, and this is sort of like good advice, I think, for all your blogs. Do not be jargony. And if you have to be jargony, put a definition of like what you're actually talking about so that people understand it. But I might go into all the different treatment styles that I use and why I like them, or why I studied them, or why I'm passionate about them, why I think they work, all the new cutting edge techniques that I'm using, that I'm excited to use in therapy. I'm going to write about that. And I'm also going to write about like current events that are happening. This is sort of like you attach with the current event and what's trending, and clients will get to like read that and really resonate with what they're reading in the news. And it's also, Google really loves it when you're writing about current events too. Um, so I might talk about what's going on, the hurricanes, like the destruction that hurricanes cause and the anxiety that we can all really feel when a hurricane is approaching us, or how like it sort of smashed through the Bahamas, and I feel like I don't know, I have this like helpless feeling of like, how do I help those people? So these are ways that you can help them. Or whatever. There's just like so many things happening in the news right now. So you can take any of those things and be like, we're really stressed out, and this is how you can treat that stress. So specialties, the demographic that you're treating, the treatments that you use, and then current events and tying them into like mental health issues.
Yeah, and I think that is, just phenomenal advice. Um, with uh, writing anything for your website, whether it's the of your pages, whether that is your blog. I do think it is important to focus on not being too jargony, not using those super technical phrases, because when somebody comes to your website, they are looking for an answer of how you can help, in a way that they're going to understand, they're going to resonate with. They're not going to resonate with a term or modality, for example, like cognitive behavioral therapy. They don't know what that is yet. They just want to know, hey, you can help with this issue that they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And even before that,
Keep that in mind.
yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Even before that, you're also going to want to put in, you're going to want to talk about you can empathize with their issue. So really use like a lot of like empathy and sympathy and feeling words of like, you must feel so helpless or powerless in your relationship. You must feel so upset or scared. Like, I got you. I understand. That makes sense. And then you can kind of like transition into, and this is what I can do for you, or this is what you can learn about, or this is how I'm going to help you, or this is why you should reach out for counseling or something. So keep on remembering to like empathize with your reader that's reading your blog.
Awesome. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. And I do love the idea about current events. I think that's a great thing to keep in mind. What are people experiencing right now? What issues are you hearing in your practice that are stressing people out? And I think any of those things can really help you connect with people, because it can help put some of these things into your own words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of times when we're like being a therapist and we're talking to our clients and we kind of start saying the same thing over and over again. We might be saying the same thing over and over again because it's really good feedback or really good advice. So take what you say over and over again and write a blog post about it.
That's great. So
Mm-hmm.
cool. And then we had a question from Ivy. How do you know if your blog is quality? You got anything for that, Jeff?
Yeah, it's hard to define. Um, it's usually it's okay if you write a blog that's just sort of like stream of consciousness. That's not, in my definition, I don't see that as like real quality. I think a quality blog is usually like at least 1,000 or 1,500 words, because that you can like really start to like get into things, if not longer. And that you like give something that's sort of like actionable, like, or something that like people can really like think about, so that it's not just sort of like whatever you're feeling that day and yada yada, but it's like, oh, here's some like 3 steps, 3 things I can do right now, or things that I should like think about if I really want to get into counseling, or how I can talk to my partner. Um, there is this sort of like, Google can sometimes define quality content as like, if you write a blog and then people are starting to link to it, or maybe even like tweet or Facebook or whatever, if you start to get more links to it, then Google's like, oh, this must be quality content. It's hard for therapists to do that on our blog, so they get people to link to us. So for us, it's just sort of like, can somebody do something with this information?
Yeah, and I think another great way to know if your blog is quality is have some of your colleagues take a look at it before you post it.
Mm-hmm.
Honest opinion on how it is. Marketing campaign. So I'll start with this one. Yes, absolutely. That is a fantastic use of your blog, and it's a great way to be able to send a newsletter them, and is not going to have any sort of issues with HIPAA or anything like that. But to send people some of your your blog posts when you post them, that is a great idea. What I suggest doing for that is when you are sending out a blog post, put the title of the blog and put a paragraph of it, and then link it back to your website, so people are also visiting your site. And that's going to be really helpful for new inquiries, just to make sure that they are directed back to your site, so that when they read your blog, they're then saying, oh, hey, I've been thinking about setting up this initial conversation for a while. I've been having X, Y, or Z issue. I think it's finally time to take the next step. So it is important, if you're going to include that in email marketing, to link it back to your website.
Yeah, I agree. All of that.
So, cool. Yep. So Layla has another question. I often find myself struggling with titles. Any thoughts about coming up with good titles for posts? I'll let you take this. Any ideas for that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't overthink it. Like, you don't have to be the best and most creative at coming up with titles. I feel like if you do overthink it, then and you title something, it starts to look like clickbait, where you're just like trying to kind of like create controversy in your title, or you're making it like too loaded with like a bunch of stuff. So and you can kind of tell when like people have like worked way too hard on their title. So just sort of like figure out, what is this about, and go ahead and kind of like title it what it's about. And then like you'll naturally start to get better at titling things as you continue to write. I just don't want people to get like super hung up on it. You know what I mean?
Cool. All right. Sorry, my connection just cut out for a
Oh,
second there. We
yeah,
should be
mine did
good now,
too.
though.
It's back though. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So, great, and sorry for that technical snafu there. So Anna asked another question. Do you need to separate do you need a separate CTA to gather emails for email marketing versus just using the emails people enter when they fill out your schedule now form? So yes, absolutely. I really would encourage you, and I think it's honestly a necessity to have a separate call to action that
Hmm.
informs people they are opting in. You don't want to just send people emails who haven't opted in to specifically, receive your newsletter. So definitely do a separate CTA with that. It's going to be really important. That's actually a fantastic question for that. So,
Yeah, that's a good question. I agree with that. Hmm.
so cool. And so great. And those were, absolutely fantastic questions. Was there anything else that anybody was curious? We got some time left here. And we are happy to answer any questions at all you might have about blogging, about how it can help, all that good stuff. So
I actually have a list of 147 different blog topics. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop it in the chat here. You can click on it. That's 147 different blog topics. You might not resonate with any of them, but I think a lot of them can at least like generate some ideas for you. So go ahead, that list is free. Just click on that link. You can also like download it as a PDF on your computer if you wanted to. And it's something that I even
Oh
check
yeah.
every now and then. It's a really good list.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome, Jeff. And I think, having things like this to use as a jumping off point is super helpful to be able to, kind of just get a start. So, um, and then I think Anna has another question specifically for you, Jeff. She said that
Hmm.
she notices you have both a contact and a schedule now page on your website. Can you talk about a little bit about the benefit of separating these?
Yeah, there's a contact and a schedule now button or different pages, and um, sometimes people just want to like contact you by just sort of like emailing you or like filling out a little form that they can just like email you and get more information and start a dialogue. Then there's like a schedule now button where you can just like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, I just want to like get going and get in your office and skip through all that stuff. It's also, people kind of like, some people when they're on websites they're looking for the contact button, and some people are just looking for the schedule now button. So I want like everyone to know this is like, there's different ways you can reach me, and you can reach me by scheduling or just contacting me. So I want to kind of like meet users where they're at. Do you just want to contact and start a dialogue, or do you want to like get down to business and schedule right now?
Yeah, and I totally agree with that as well. We do that on a lot of Brighter Vision websites as well, where there's a separate schedule now button and then a contact page for those exact reasons. And I think that is, spot on. So you want to be able to, have a different user flow for any different kind of person that's coming to the site, and have that reflected on the site. So.
Hmm.
Um, so Joel has a question. The benefit of having a separate blog page versus having posts in a right-hand margin, or both. So I'll go ahead and start with this one. So if you have a website, a blog on your website, you're most likely going to need a separate blog page. Um, Most setups don't allow you to just have those in a right-hand margin. You do need a separate page for them. If there is a certain integration, whether it's some different kind of website builder outside of like a WordPress, I would encourage you to do both, to have both a separate page and also in the right-hand margin. But at the very minimum, definitely make sure you have a separate blog page. And then just having in the right-hand margin is another way to kind of increase visibility and have your blogs even more accessible.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. Um, Sort of off topic, or but on topic of blogs. Another good topic to get started with sometimes is writing like a beginner's guide to finding therapy in Portland, Oregon, or Denver, Colorado, or Los Angeles, California. Because like, you know your city and you know what it's like to try to find a therapist in your city. And Google also really likes it if you write content that is like really local. So for Portland, I'm going to say like September here. September is here. It's getting cloudy. The rain is starting. We're all very sad. Time to go to therapy again. And Google like kind of like knows like, oh, he knows what it's like to live in Portland. He's like referencing the weather because we all talk about the weather here. Or I'm going to talk about like, this is how to find a therapist on the west side of Portland or the east side of Portland, where I can get like really detailed about like my town. And then the more you do that, the more you're like, the higher chances it'll be that you can like rank higher for people saying like how to find therapy in Portland or in your town. So just another idea.
Yeah, that's great advice, Jeff. So Amy had a question too, and I put it in the chat. But yeah, if you have a Brighter Vision website, all you have to do is email us at support@brightervision.com, and we'll post a blog for you. It's a part of your unlimited technical support that we include with every Brighter Vision site. You can even, Amy, just stick that in an email and send it to us right away. It doesn't even have to be in a Word document. We'll take care of putting it on your site. We also here at Brighter Vision offer our growth platform, which helps you blog. Basically, we give you 2 posts a month to post to your site. Those blog posts you are able to just use as a basic template or an idea, and kind of use it as a jumping off point. So it's a great service we offer as well. If you have any questions about that, you can feel free to email me directly. you can use the link that Katie put, or just email me directly at samc@brightervision.com. As well, for any of the questions you have about blogging, about our service, feel free to email me directly. Sometimes it takes me a day to respond, but I will always respond. So cool. So yeah, so we got about 10 minutes or so left here. Anybody else have any kind of final questions for us? Any thing that you are thinking about that maybe we didn't cover? Maybe if it's about blogging, if it's about how to set up a blog, or it's about why should you even be doing any of this in the first place? So any final questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll get right to them.
And also, I want to remind people that if you're a Therapy Den member, you can submit a blog to the Therapy Den blog. Actually, I'll link to our blog page. So there's like a page on Therapy Den where I personally blog, and then there's another page on Therapy Den where I post blogs from other therapists, and I also blog about the podcast that I do. But if you're a Therapy Den member, you can post a blog, you can submit a blog, and then my super nice copy editor wife will edit it for you. And then you can, I'll post it for you, and there'll be a link coming from Therapy Den to your website, which would be like a good high quality authority link. So that's something you can do as well.
So yeah, and that is awesome. That's an awesome opportunity, Jeff, to be able to, have people post and send you their own blogs. I would really encourage anybody who's a Therapy Den member to take advantage of that. If you're not a Therapy Den member, definitely encourage you to try them out. They have just a phenomenal mission. We've been so happy to be partnered with them. Just to have a partner who's a more progressive directory and is really able to stand behind their mission, the ideals of helping more people, and understanding and empathizing with everyone who needs that help. So cool. I had a question about the automated blogging and if that benefits you as much as writing your own. So we do always encourage you to put your own flair in any of the blogs that you are using. If you don't have time, posting one of those blogs is going to be better than not posting at all. But it is helpful to be able to put some of your own personality in there, and that kind of goes back to what we had said about people wanting to get to know you, and I think that's a great way to do it. So Julie had a question about what is the greatest benefit of blogging. I haven't given it much attention, although I really love to write. Maybe you could speak to that one, Jeff?
Yeah, just typing something. Okay, there we go.
Oh,
that's okay.
No problem.
So the biggest benefit, the greatest benefit of blogging. Yeah. Since you really love to write, I also really love to write, and there's just something, it's different than being a therapist, right? Because like when you're being a therapist and you're talking to people all day, that's really nice and feels really good. But there's something about also like writing, and you're using a different part of your brain, you're using a different part of your mind, and you're like being creative in a different way. And then you like write a blog and you're like, look, I did this. Like this feels really gratifying and satisfying. You can't always do that when you're being a therapist. Plus, like we were saying at the beginning, you develop a digital rapport with people that are visiting your website. They get to know you even better. They're looking at your website a ton before actually reaching out. And then you can like rank higher in search engine up in online searches. And it just sort of like, I don't know if you feel this way, Sam, but it kind of like makes the website feel more professional. You don't just have your 5 or 6 like static pages that never change. You're like a living, breathing professional therapist that cares about your work, and it just shows that you're like more like authentic, or you're more of an authority, or you're thinking about stuff. You know what I mean? You're going to trainings and then you're typing about it or something. So it gives people more of a professional feel, and I think people will reach out to you more if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And something we say here too is, a website in itself is a living and breathing thing. It's, supposed to change over time. It's supposed to develop as your business grows. And your blog is a great way to do that. It makes you look professional. It, kind of shows that you're keeping up, with, your clients and how to best serve them and potential clients. So, in regards to the comment section on the blog that April had, so This is something that can be a little tricky. It's actually something that we partially covered in my webinar about a month ago on HIPAA compliancy on social media. If you want to check that out, that's on our website. But with commenting on blogs, I think it's helpful to have the comment section open if you are prepared to do some moderation there, because what you don't want is anybody putting any PHI, any personal health information on that could potentially be in violation of HIPAA. And if that information appears, our typical suggestion is to delete that right away, and then maybe respond personally to that person in an email that says, hey, I saw your comment. Could we please maybe if you wanted to come in, we could talk about this on X day in your session. Just to know that they're heard, but you had to delete it because you don't want any of that stuff being posted on your website. So would you kind of agree with that, Jeff?
Oh yeah, and I would turn it off. I don't even want to deal with that. It's like extra work to moderate it. I don't trust that people are going to like be careful about putting personal information there. Google wants us to have comments on because it like can kind of create a dialogue and add even more content, but it's sort of not worth it for mental health professionals, in my opinion. So I'd say turn it off or moderate it, like you're saying, Sam.
Yeah, and I think that suggestion too is probably going to work for most people. Maybe just to go more towards just turning it off, so you don't have to constantly keep an eye on that. But if you do keep it on, I definitely encourage you to really pay attention to that and moderate it. So most blogging websites do let you to either turn it off, or they let you just delete comments that aren't appropriate. So and then if you do have more questions on like commenting and HIPAA compliancy on social media and blogging, Katie Hill, who's our product marketing specialist here at Brighter Vision, she actually just linked that webinar in the chat. So Sarah has a question about how long to see if blogging twice a month is leading to benefit. You have anything for that one, Jeff?
Yeah, it's a good question, but it's a hard question to answer. But and also like, what does benefit mean? I guess, does it mean like attracting more clients to your practice, or does it mean like moving up the ranks in Google? Because a lot of times when we blog and then just sort of like becomes part of your website, and eventually somebody does like what they call a long tail search in Google. So like a long tail search in Google is something like um, I'm really upset with my boyfriend and he makes me really anxious and I don't know what to do about it. How can I find a couples counselor in Portland? Right? We're just like, and if you wrote a blog article on like communication issues with your boyfriend or girlfriend and how to find a therapist that matches that in Portland, then like that super, super, super ideal client that you've written about has like found you, and then they'll come in. And so there's like, now there's like you're like getting money for that because that like specific client found that blog. And so I kind of like, when I'm writing blogs for my therapy practice website, I'm thinking about like some one person is gonna like do a long tail like search and they're gonna find this. So it does like attract more clients if you do that. And then for like the Google and SEO, the more content you have, the higher you'll move up. But sometimes that takes like 3 months or 6 months or a whole year to eventually like look back and be like, wow, I've blogged 24 times and now I really see that I'm moving up the ranks. So you're sort of like investing in the future of your business. You might not move up the ranks in like 2 weeks, but you could move up the ranks in like a year or maybe even 2 years. But then like for the rest of your career, you might be like ranking pretty high for those keywords. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I do think that with blogging, it's a kind of a long-term thing. It's
hmm
something that you should be doing on your website, because like you said, you could be getting this super specific ideal client,
hmm
but that might take a year
hmm
for them to actually connect with you. So I think with that in mind, it's important to keep in mind that doing it is going to help you in the long run. And it's important. Um, and maybe if you aren't getting a direct client from that at the moment, doesn't mean you won't in the future. Here at Brighter Vision, we have a blog we put out every week. We don't get clients from it, directly every week. But we also know that we're providing, our customers and non-customers alike important information to help grow their business, important information to educate. So it's, your blog can also be a really helpful thing for existing clients who maybe visit your site and maybe they're in between sessions just looking for, some advice. So
yeah, I just wanted to add one more link because there's been a couple questions on like, what should the format be? What should I write about? And I wrote another blog post on Therapy Den that goes over 10 different blog formats for therapists. So I'll put it in the chat there, and you can click that to get even more ideas and to try to figure out like what kind of format or different formats you'd want to include in your blog.
Awesome. That is great. So cool. So April has a question. With Brighter Vision, are you able to provide page analytics to see how many people visit our blog through our website? So April, yes, absolutely. We can do that at no additional cost through Google Analytics. To look at the page views, you just have to set up a Google Analytics account and email us at support@Brighter Vision, and we're able to get that set up for you. We also offer a more detailed service called Brighter Insights that allows for things like keyword tracking, but basic page analytics are free with us. So if you just email support@brightervision.com, we can get that set up for you, and I'll put that email there. But cool. So yeah, so we are just about out of time here. Thank you all so much for joining us. I have a bunch more webinars coming up the rest of this month. We sent an email about it earlier this week. I got one each week here for Fall into Cash. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us for our first Fall into Cash webinar this month. I thought your expertise, the information you were able to provide, background being on this, that was fantastic, and just really happy to have you with us for all this awesome info.
Yeah, sure, no problem. And I hope everybody checks out therapyden.com. New, progressive, inclusive website. If you have any feedback on it, let me know. You can reach me at hello@therapyden.com. I'll put that in the chat too.
Oh yes, please do. And yeah, Therapy Den is fantastic. I would really recommend everybody sign up for an account there. Different free trial options for therapy to test it out. But their mission is just super cool, and we're super happy to have them, with us here at Brighter Vision. And yeah, so I'll be sending, I can actually send everyone a link to the Therapy Den website as well, Jeff. In addition to a recording, everyone will get a recording of the webinar today to view it at a later date.
Nice.
So thank you all so much for joining us, and hope you tune in for the rest of our webinars the rest of this month, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks again, Jeff.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.